we go. So welcome everyone. Welcome Matt. Great to have you on the air. So unfortunately not face to face, but it is what it is. Last time we had a discussion together, we were sitting in Manchester together in front of a real crowd of
Yeah.
physical people. Now it's another setup, but all good. So this today we were going to talk about advertising, and specifically the highest part of the advertising funnel with over the top advertising. So as usual, this is our usual thing on our webinars. Is like we start with a fun fact about yourself, and I'm excited to hear yours.
Uh, oh, good, good. Yeah, fun fact, but I'm Matt Amston, EMD at Marketplace AMP. And we say Marketplace AMP because we amplify sales, but we also, there's a lot of musical talent, I'd like to think, in the team apart from mine. I like to DJ, so DJ house music. But also there's Taro in my team. He's a scratch DJ and he's played in Glastonbury as well. So, but obviously we're very keen about e-commerce and music as well. So there's a couple of people who play electric guitar, a couple of pianists. So yeah, we're very musical at AMP. So that's a fun
Do you have
fact.
any music or musical brands or anything around music in your portfolio of brands?
No, no, we don't actually. It's interesting. We should.
Bring in some
There's
of
an
your
idea.
knowledge. Yeah.
But yeah, AMP, we're basically the online grocery marketplace. So we focus a lot on food, FMCG, health and beauty, and pets is where we focus. So that's our passion as well. So we're foodies and we're musical and we love e-commerce and Amazon and all things like that. So that's a little intro about AMP.
Yeah, it's great. And it actually is very interesting because talking to a lot of agencies, it's rare that the agencies are very so specific as you are about the
Yeah.
businesses you're in, which is great. It shows like you're talking about the ones you know really about, because sometimes when you venture in a new category, there are new rules you have to learn about. So I think it's a great sign for people of expertise in a specific area.
Yeah, I think that's one of our USPs, is being able to provide market insight and really understanding the consumers and what the trends are around food, for example. There's a big trend about clean eating, keto, vegan, all those types of trends that brands should be aware of. Are also very important when we're thinking about Amazon content and also keyword landscapes and those things. There's also quite a few hurdles that Amazon can throw up when trying to
Are
sell.
they?
Yes. Oh, really? Yeah. Even more if you're trying to sell alcohol or medicinal products with medicinal claims, for example. So you've got FDA and MHRA regulation. So understanding that paperwork and understanding the ways to navigate around the roadblocks that Amazon throw in the way is beneficial, really. But yeah, I think really understanding those markets is really, really key as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for those viewers on Marketplace AMP. Let's dive into topic of the day, OTT advertising. Now, maybe you can like define or explain a bit what is OTT advertising, over the top advertising.
Yes, I think before I go deeply into OTT, sort of trying to explain where it sits within the Amazon advertising ecosystem, which is, as we all know, is growing all the time. So OTT, over the top advertising, is video advertising. You can get high quality video content placed in front of your ideal consumers that around your key demographic you want to target, or with consumers with certain buying behaviours that maybe bought your product before. That's really key for like FMCG, because if you want to keep repeat purchase, keep front of mind. But it's very much at the top of the sales funnel. So your typical Amazon, what was AMS, pay-per-click advertising, is very much at the point of sale. But OTT is at the top of the sales funnel, where we're looking to build brand. Things like brand salience is really important. And so an OTT is a tactic, is if you want to increase your brand awareness and saliency, that's an important tool. So in the case of typical, coupons, promotions, lightning deals, pay-per-click, that's sales activation. That could have a short-term blip in sales, but over time, as people forget about your brand, maybe look at other brands that are higher brand recognition. So you want to be looking at, maybe applicable to larger brands, but you need to think about raising brand awareness, because overall, long term, that's going to increase your sales as well. So that's why it's important.
Yeah, so I hear long term a bit in the approach, so higher part of the funnel, so further away from the sales, and with already understanding that it's a long term, maybe bigger investment. I heard also you were talking about videos, and there's been a lot of new things tested on Amazon on the search, like on the PPC side, where you have sponsored brands with videos, and especially in the States, they're testing things like that. So what's the difference between that sort of part of all those new things which you can have video on search with keywords, and this OTT video side? What are the main differences?
Okay, yeah, so that's a good shout, because they shouldn't be confused, but you're right, Amazon's going into video in a big way. So sponsored brand video, been working with that since almost a year now in the States, but it's just come in the UK and Europe September time. So that works in the same way as you would do a sponsored brand. You can target it to certain keywords. They're also bringing out opportunity to drive traffic into your storefront as well using the video, which I think would be really cool. But they're not to be confused. So over the top video, you have an opportunity to serve a 15 to 30-second video, so brand video, to your target demographic from Amazon's data, because they've got billions of data points, remember, about consumers. So you can target your ideal demographic, but further afield. So on Amazon Publisher Network, so you could target, for example, on CNN Go app, the food channel, Discovery channels, along news websites, IMDb TV, which is a streaming service owned by Amazon, and also Amazon Fire. You can serve your video content over this huge range of publishers, about 50 million monthly users that you could target by the network, apparently, and they're adding to it all the time. Being able to target your consumers. So bringing it back to the sales funnel, you imagine that you've obviously got people searching for your product, or they may be in the category searching for similar products within pet food, for example. But you want to target people that you know are dog owners that have an Amazon account, but you want to be able to raise awareness of your brand. Then over the top or demographic targeting on DSP, demand side platform, is the way to do that. So you can bring those customers into your shopping aisle and point them in the direction of your product. And that works well with your pay-per-click advertising, because what you'll find is the more top funnel you do, the more branded search you get. And we all know that's cheaper clicks as well. So, you'll see that uplift of people searching for your brand, and then more detailed page views of your ASINs from there. So broadly, that's why you would use that video, and there's the tactic to do that. So grabbing more consumers, grabbing more market share is top of funnels, what you need to think about.
So two things is you mentioned about so OTT advertising. There's like you said, there was 58 million viewers per month.
Yeah, well, 50 million monthly viewers, which you can target across various networks, is what Amazon, according to Amazon.
Like, is it mostly US, or is there an immense part of the US and a smaller part of Europe? Do you have a feeling about that, or?
Yeah, I had to look. Preparing for this, I thought, I thought you may ask, but I had to dig through. But basically, the 50 million monthly users is Amazon's data, so it's skewed towards the states. I should surmise. It's been very much pushed in the UK as well, and rolled out across Europe. So, but I should surmise mainly in the US at the moment, like we saw with sponsored brand video, and it's coming into more mainstream for brands to use in the UK and EU now.
Okay, and I remember we discussed a bit together about the Fire tablets, because I know every time you talk to the DSP team, or like to an Amazon person who's also selling DSP or programmatic advertising. They're always talking about this offering about Fire tablets and being able to reach customers on the Fire tablet. So it's like the Kindle with colors, basically, right? But my understanding is that it was very popular in the States with numbers that Amazon is never really sharing, but quite popular in the States, but much less in Europe. What's your take on that?
I think it's very, very popular in the States. There's really good penetration in the UK. I think something like 10 million Kindle devices within the UK. There's almost 24 million voice devices in the UK, for example, now. So it has an opportunity, and this is DSP, but you can actually target like the lock screen of the Fire and Kindle tablets with advertising.
Also the Kindle, so Kindle works on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you would say, like, for a brand who's interested in investing on the DSP advertising, so programmatic advertising, and Amazon will say, okay, you've got the search low funnel, you've got what they call the middle part, which is mostly retargeting, and then you've got the higher part, which is what we're talking about, OTT, and they're always talking about Amazon Video and Fire tablets, and you still say, okay, it makes sense when we're trying to raise awareness to have those tools. To use Fire tablet and the rest of those video platforms, you still see good results.
Yes, so good results. I've got an example. I can't give you client data, but I can anonymize it just to give you an example of some of the results, really, to walk through that. But say, typically we're looking at minimum spend of about $15,000 a month in the US, to give you an idea. Read budgets, which to some brands might seem a lot, but to larger brands that's really nothing. And I think the real benefit of that is typical TV. Yes, you are hitting millions of people, and it's much on the face of it. You think, well, actually, I'm going to hit a lot more people, but do you? I know you have a dog, John, but if I targeted you with cat food, you wouldn't be interested. But I'm a cat owner, so I don't. So you make.
We're still friends. So.
We're still friends. That's why we're doing Video Link. But it's hitting that relevant or hitting the right people with the right advertising is the holy grail of marketing, I guess, and that's what we can do with it. So the numbers might not seem as big as traditional TV, but you're hitting the right people, really. So essentially, we ran this through one of our pet clients, and we're looking at $15,000 monthly suggested, and the CPM, the cost per milli, came out at $23. So we hit over the month about 650,000 people that were in the demographic, the genre, and the behaviour base that we wanted to hit. So within the age range that we knew that there were pet owners, we knew that they were likely to buy, and that's one of the things that I guess that's a special sauce that DSP has over what was AMS. Is it not only targets consumers very accurately, but it targets consumers with a high propensity to buy as well, so that it machine learns. So, and then hitting things like HD TV, food, travel channels, Discovery, Hallmark. We knew that these media outlets were frequented by the target demographic as well. And then we could look at metrics like brand reach, brand lift, etc., with third parties. So that Amazon used like Nielsen and the likes, of do a survey before and afterwards and things like that they could do, which I can't share with you, unfortunately. But we saw a video completion rate of 93%.
Okay, so that means people looking at the total of the video, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Going away. Okay.
So 650,000 people with a 97 completion rate because it's
they're in target.
They're interested in, basically.
And did you manage to see what was the uplift of sales generally, maybe online and offline? Was it something they were able to see, or?
Yes, I think when you're looking at overall, our clients and our Amazon sites, you see not only an uplift, I think it's about 78% uplift over that period of detailed page views, and they had their website traffic peaked as well. But so that not only there's through sales overall, but also other factors like branded search has increased as well.
And probably halo effect also.
Yeah, the halo effect, 24% over that month. So obviously you're getting cheaper clicks through that. So I think one of the issues that, as a call out for ourselves, because we've all got to advise other clients and things like that, is the direct attribution of, okay, 650,000 people viewed that video that drove that traffic, but how many sales came from that video? Amazon can't link those two together. It's something we raised with, with the Amazon team, saying, well, look, you'd get a lot more investment if you could prove direct linkage. There's no link on that video that consumers can click through to attribute.
Okay, so there's no call to action, so to speak, or okay.
Yeah. So that's one watch out. What they are doing at the moment is in beta is like attributed brand search. So looking at X percentage of traffic that was driven by brand on Amazon was from that video. So that's that's going to make it a lot more powerful, really, because it being at the top of funnel.
And did you have the kind of metric of how sales most probably increased in that period? If you look at the time whilst you were doing year on year, were you able to give a general metric without knowing exactly what came from?
So year on year, there was a 24% increase in sales that month. But there was, there's lots of other factors as well, because you're running a coupons or let's say, but overall was 24% increase. So a 78% increase in detailed page views over that time. So yeah, it's driving a lot of traffic and consideration. But when you're driving traffic into Amazon, then you've got to have other parts of your funnel lined up. So that's when your retargeting picks up. So actually, 78% increase, 24% increase. What about, the other 50% of those people? Where have they gone? And then you have to sort of, that's where the retargeting will slowly pick up those people over that time. So I think that's one of the challenges when you're looking at like top of funnel activity, is to get that attribution piece in place. And we mentioned when we were just talking about this seminar as well, didn't we, that I think Google has a very good, clear sort of funnel attribution metric in showing like an assisted sale metric off social or whatever it may be. And I think that's something that Amazon should, and it's something we fed back, should be able to fit in their metrics, in their data stack, saying, okay, 650,000 people, approximately 645,000 people viewed the video in total, and out of those views there was an X amount of assisted metric, then that's something that should be in place. But that's just a watch out, really. But
but they will probably try to put it in place. And I remember in Manchester, the time we were together on Amethyst, someone was talking about the fact that the Google machine is so much in advance, the advertising tool is so much more refined than the Amazon one, that they have so many more functionalities on Google itself that Amazon still hasn't got, because it's a much younger system compared to Google. So probably shows that the differences. One thing, I think this is an awesome example, is like we talked when we prepared. Also, we have a few questions, but we'll get to them in 5 minutes. Just to finish on that point, is we discussed about on search advertising, you've got ACOS, average cost of sales, with TACOS, the total average cost of sales, is checking your sales. I mean, the cost of advertising compared to total sales, rather than compared only to your advertised sales. I think there's the same thing also with OTT, right? With your return on ad spend of your specific ad, and also checking your advertising compared to the wholesale, even sometimes probably offline also, because video advertising can have an impact. Do you have any like, I don't know if you can, how detailed you can give an answer, but for this specific example, what was a bit the return on ad spend and the total return on ad spend if you take all sales into equation?
Well, to answer your question, that's for the reasons we've mentioned. That's it's very hard to attribute exact ROAS on OTT. In fact, Amazon, when they're going through that managed services, won't do that. They'll look at video completion rate, details page view, but no, we can't.
Yeah.
No, we can't report on ROAS because it's not an exact science, really, as it were. But broadly speaking, when you're looking at demand side platform, retargeting, we've seen very good results between sort of 6 to almost 15 times ROAS on retargeting. But the problem is with retargeting is you only have there's a finite number of people that you can retarget. If you're not doing anything to drive more traffic to listings, social, email, TV, whatever, PR, then
it will be very weak, yeah.
Diminish over time. So looking higher up the funnel, we're looking at 30 to 40% ACoS, but in market is a well optimized campaign is okay. And in that respect, doing things like overlap audiences for your email list or a pixel on your website, that works really well. But I've seen some campaigns go down to sort of 1, less than 1, higher up, but then you're driving traffic and detailed page views that are hit by the retargeting. So, your retargeting will start working really well, and that's they're in that. The reason why I got into Amazon and marketplaces is because you can see from your marketing efforts immediate results almost, within the months of having all that measurement in place. And so I'm constantly challenging the data and going, well, okay, well, that's great, we're doing this, but how can we attribute higher up the funnel to remarketing and the like? So I know it's a bit of a waffly answer, I know, but it isn't really possible.
Yeah, when people talk about advertising, it's often waffly, so I'll try to get it. But I have this image of those big wooden wheels which take water and brings it again and makes it turn, and it's a bit about that. It's like you have to go from the top of the funnel and bring more water to the thing. So maybe if I dig a bit further before going to the question is, you said, for example, the minimum was 15,000 investment per month. So you said dollars, so that's probably in the US in this case. At one point, does it start to make sense? Like, how much turnover needs to do the brand for it to cover that kind of cost? For example, from your experience, that's one thing, one way of looking at it. The second way is, in this case, typically, how was they looked the 15,000, probably they had also some other DSP campaigns and some other search campaigns. How was like the percentage of like this compared to total sales once it grew? Once it grew, like you say, okay, they've done all of that, OTT advertising, retargeting, probably search advertising, coupons, everything, and it came to 24% sales growth. Do you have an idea of how much they invested versus how much they made in total? Like I know it's very difficult, but like you have totals at least of they spent X amount and they generated X amount. So do you have this kind of insight?
Well, I mean, this the US market is competitive and it's a very big, very large market that are targeting in there. So basically, and the lifetime value of the product allowed them to be investing advertising at almost like 100%. So 1-for-1 ROAS when they first started out. So, you need to think about certain markets work in different ways. If you've got a lifetime value of a product of several $100s, for example, versus a one-up fee of something that is versus a one-up fee that's something that is much lower doesn't make sense, because if the client goes, I'm only going to buy one widget for $15, but 100% ACOS, and when you're launching a brand, doesn't make sense. But if you have a lifetime value that is $150 of that product, you can afford to have a cost per acquisition of, of one, essentially, because it's a long-term gain. You're looking at. And equally, if you're trying to break into a market like this client was doing versus established competitors, you've got to be very hyper aggressive to gain market share, to gain that revenue, and then lower ACOS. So some of the bigger brands are quite prepared to, even run a loss in a short term to break a market, to increase it, to get into a market. So I think that's what you're looking at when you're trying to launch in a new territory like the US. There's different metrics that you've got to think about. You've got to think about the size of the market, the long-term gain, what's the lifetime value of the product as well. How can we increase the overall AOV of a product? So that in a respect, because they're also, there's clients of ours also running TV campaigns for several $1 million, PR campaigns for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it goes back to that brand saliency point. When you're launching a new product and a new brand, you're investing in the brand rather than just the sale. So it's having a look at that holistic approach of going, okay, we're building brand awareness. More people are aware about a brand or search for a brand long term. Overall sales, if we get them to a certain point, then we can pull back and optimize for profit. And that's what looking at around that brand launch cycle that people have to think about as well.
So do you think that those brands are looking to the overall advertising or marketing budget, and Amazon is part of it, and then they look at the retail engine, be it on retail or marketplace of Amazon, a bit separately? So they say, okay, we have this whole investment with TV and everything, and they separate, or do they look at with the companies you work with, Amazon as a whole?
This is like separate, and I think this is the interesting conversation about Amazon now, because it's that triopoly of Amazon, Amazon, Facebook, and Google, isn't it? Where people put their money. That's one thing, and also the TV and advertiser agencies, the big boys like the WPPs of this world, are looking at Amazon as a media channel now, as well as TV. Yeah, and that's where the whole advertising versus sales equation is a different discussion altogether, because you're looking at building a brand and brand awareness as well as sales.
Yeah, which is a different KPI than it's a much more, it's a longer term vision than maybe sometimes the shorter term.
And that's if I'm honest, with some of the smaller clients as well, it's very hard to say, okay, we need to be spending this money on growing brand awareness, when they're just looking at you, we're interested in the sales. So, but
it's
long term,
a bit two different worlds. Yeah,
two different worlds, but they have to work together. To a really successful brand has very strong marketing, very strong sales, and they're aligned on goals.
So that's what probably links into a part of the strategy of where we're working with some brands, which is you need to protect a big part of your value, product value, with a proper distribution setup, proper pricing structure, to make sure that your prices don't get completely eroded on the marketplace, because otherwise there's no more money to invest, which we can see in some cases you have to invest to a point which is extreme to get started in some cases. I think it's a great insight.
So I think that's the point about the costs going down as well, is if you don't have a strong brand, then the only thing you have to do is chase down the shiny sellers to the bottom, don't you, really? So people are willing to pay more for branded products. That's long term view.
One question we have on the chat is, you mentioned 93% of completion rate for your ad video on Amazon. are the videos skippable? Can you skip them?
Yes, yeah, this video is skippable. So yeah, so 93% of people watching it all the way through or skipped on. So yeah, so
Which is pretty impressive. Do you have comparable metrics on on Google, on YouTube, or?
not with me, but I could, I think that's very
Because
hard.
93% sounds enormous to me. Like as a customer, when you go on YouTube, you can't wait to click on I want to skip.
So, yeah, absolutely. No, but I think it's that just shows the targeting that I think that versus YouTube, Amazon knows what you bought before and has a lot of data points to work with you. So that's good.
So Philippe was saying that 93% sounds like non-skippable video. So no, they
skippable, but yeah,
they are skippable. So it's like it's probably that the targeting was very well done, and you probably didn't take massive audiences, but really audiences.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 650,000 people here and targeting,
which is a small audience, huh? If you talk about Amazon in the US,
but it's very specific. The best way to describe it.
Yeah, so that you're already gone a bit lower on that higher part of the funnel. You're already going a wee bit lower because typically Amazon would say you have several millions on the OTT part where you could play with. Obviously, and that would lower your rates.
Yeah, so it's been a while since I've done any targeting on YouTube, a few years, but certainly back then when I was targeting, it's just like general interests, very general demographics targeting on YouTube versus, I've sat in a DSP presentation with a client going, well, actually the client saying our key demographic is a 24 to 45-year-old women and they like X, Y, and Z and and Amazon's going, no, half your consumers on the UK are men. And there's a lot of people that are actually are either pregnant or have children. And did you know that there's a large proportion of your consumers like granola as well? So Amazon is overlaying billions of data points, including Alexa, including Amazon Fire, all those other points as well, to actually and again it goes back to the DSP of machine learning, who's the people that are most likely to buy your product. I think that's
and really typically we say that Google and Facebook know what you like, Amazon know what you buy, which makes quite a big of a difference, because you could like lots of things but wouldn't be able to afford them or
and there's lots of studies about on Facebook and things like people saying that we vote Republican and then they go and vote Democrat. It's sort
of to a recent example, and without giving any comment, is like a lot of people were not saying they were voting for Trump, but actually voting for Trump, and they were saying a lot of the surveys were wrong because people were lying because they were sometimes ashamed of saying they were voting for Trump. And you have that for the far right in France also, where a lot of surveys are wrong. So exactly to your point. We have another question. What's the duration of the ad video on average? Any prerequisites from a format standpoint?
So 15 to 30 second period, rather, later in the day, is the prerequisite. So it's 16 to 19 for aspect ratio and PV, high quality video format, basically. Can't remember exactly the exact KP kilobits, but
but probably, and that's where Amazon is probably smart, because those 30 seconds, like you wouldn't get a 93%.
It's a very short,
because the 93% probably, if it was a 2-minute video, you would go down probably. So it's quite clever to push people to be very efficient on their advertising.
So that's probably goes part way to answer Philip's question. It's almost the same length as the buffer video on a YouTube. We all watch that until we skip, but
exactly.
It's probably that sort of length of video.
To be honest, I'm always really in awe when I have an ad. Most of, like 95% of the time you want to skip, and sometimes you do get those ads which are so well made that they're so compelling that you want to go on watching. And
Yeah,
it's a very rare number, but I said, wow, the mind which has created that is quite powerful, because
yeah.
like we're completely bored with ads, sometimes with video ads, but
And
some
also,
manage to do that.
just to say, I don't want to give away the client or anything, but it was a pet related client. So I think animals are more engaging than
For sure.
screw widgets or something like that, So
True, you're right.
yeah,
And
yeah,
specifically to this audience, like a dog owner,
yeah,
like my kids would make fun of me because if there's a dog in the street, I will stop and watch the
yeah,
dog. So
yeah, yeah,
it's like, yeah, we probably dog owners or cat owners are quite receptive. So
yeah, yeah.
I'll be
Sorry.
careful not to, yeah, about the advertising I watch. Another question is the 15K, so 15,000 minimum budget for OTT and video ad campaigns on Amazon, or for any ad campaign generally speaking? Can you please clarify?
So this is well, in the case of the USA for DSP, the minimum spend is a managed, so it's $100,000. But this is for OTT is 15,000 budget at the moment, monthly. Just to
So it's
clarify.
only for OTT, but
OTT, yeah.
yeah, if you're looking at a retargeting, does it have, so it goes to the 100,000, or?
On a managed service, or unless you're, we have our own seat on DSP, so we can self-serve clients a lot less than Amazon. Amazon are wanting to move, we notice, more and more away from clients
But like
as
on
they
the
do with
retail
the
side, yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So you can do it for less for an agency self-serve, but to get to use the OTT function on top of your DSP spend is $15,000 a month at the moment.
And the DSP, like the lower part of the funnel, DSPs are retargeting typically.
Yeah.
Do they have a monthly?
Well, no, not with. I mean, we can run campaigns as low as sort of 5,000, a month, but it gets to the point where you need a certain amount of data and views and consumers working that funnel for the algorithm to be effective. So typically, it's about if you're looking at DSP, typically think about $10,000 a month as a budget. You need to be in the region of. Now, clearly, there's brands that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we need to sort of work at that.
Yeah.
So as a starting point, if you're for a test and learn, sort of 10,000 is something you need to look at.
Yeah, which the thing is, it's a chicken and egg thing, is that people who don't spend enough say, wow, it's useless because, we spend so much, but 1 month and it's not doing anything. Basically, you have to give it time, and it's a quite a big expense. Probably, 3 months, 2-3 months minimum. And to generate and go. And I like the idea of what you said of, you generate a lot of page views with the OTT, and then you retarget those people, and then you when they are closer to the selling point, you catch them with a PPC. So it's a complete sort of strategy to catch people and to grow your brand. So obviously, some brands will have a lot of traffic because they have a high demand products, and they can do retargeting. But without, if they don't have that, they will probably need to build their brand awareness with these type of campaigns. Now, I have a question: is, do you see a big difference between the States and Europe? And maybe in Europe, you have like UK and Germany are big markets, but in the other markets, do you have any experience of comparing, so benchmarking one and the other? Like what we typically see is that US is much more efficient, like it's a larger market, so it's easier, and that Europe is sometimes more complex. What's your experience on that?
In what respect? That's interesting.
It's like, running an OTT campaign and spending those 15 or 1,000 in the US versus doing it in the UK or in Germany, or splitting it in two, for example. What's your experience about? It's half. it's half efficient, let's say, in Europe compared to the US? Do you have any metrics like that? Or from your experience of saying, yeah, it works well in both sides, or it's linked to the brand or to awareness?
I think from the UK and the US and the UK work well. I mean, the US is more mature when it comes to DSP and OTT. I think the whole sort of system is, and working with Amazon well, they seem to be more integrated, because in the UK and Europe, you'll have a Amazon advertising. What I keep on calling it AMS, but because it's confusing when you say advertising, it's all advertising, Amazon advertising, isn't it? But you have an Amazon AMS manager, and then you have a DSP, manager, which was AMG in the UK, and they both don't seem to work together. Whereas in the US, that person is one person, and you're pulling all the levers together at the same time. So it works better. It's more efficient in the USA, to answer your question. I haven't run it in the other markets in the EU, to be transparent. I think it's available in Germany, but
it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, I think it's US and UK is where sort of they seem to be well in a way. Most respects, it's like the sponsor brand video we were talking about. It sort of starts in the US, seems to come across from that way. So it's a relatively new technology, but certainly needs to be on our radar, and you can do some really cool stuff with it.
Great. There was one point I wanted to two things. So the first thing is talking about metrics. You touched on it quickly a bit earlier on. What do you think are the metrics you really want to look at, and what's a good metric versus a bad one, or where do you want to be?
So the metrics are OTP. We want to look at video completion rate, as you mentioned about engagement, and also detailed page views. There's a new consumers that are in the market, so new to brand, which is an interesting one, which you can sort of pull through. And being aware of that new to brand, not only within DSP, but also on things like your sponsored brands, where you may be targeting search terms higher up the sales funnel. So,
and like, at what point do you say that the completion rate is good? At what point do you say the detailed page views is good? Do you have is there a benchmark? Typically, when we say, okay, for example, conversion rate when you are 7, 8, conversion rate starts to be good. Like, what's do you have typically what you would say you're happy with or unhappy with?
I think when you're looking at video completion rate, from all my time in sort of digital marketing, and anything over 85% is sort of high fives, really. That's good. Bearing in mind it's very targeted. You should be looking at getting up into 80s for completion rate. The video is targeted well and it's engaging. So it's not only your Amazon advertising, it's the quality of the video as well, which is important.
Obviously, yeah.
So the first few seconds have to be very engaging, so that's point one. When we're looking at detailed page views, it depends on the size of the audience and the size of what you're doing, really. But certainly you want to see detailed page views increase, certainly above 30 or 40%. For example, you want to see a decent increase. Now, a lot of those people I would call them tire kickers, but they're checking the brand out, checking the products out. You're not going to get as qualified people because they're not at the point of sale. I wouldn't go onto the Food Channel network to go and buy something on Amazon. So you may look at it, view the product the next day, the next week, whatever it may be. So that's one point. But then looking at your metrics about the uplift on your retargeting. So month on month is being able to manage that metric and see how that increases as well. It'd be another sort of key metric as well.
And then Yeah, and the YouTube brand, is it something you want to, when you set it up, you set yourself a target, or is there a golden number here also, which is, okay, well, so many percent of YouTube brand?
Well, no, I mean, think I'm looking at the brand around the branded search, and looking at the uplift across that as well would be the key one. When you're looking at new to brand, how as much as possible, basically. But if you can increase your new to brand sales, so overall you're looking at existing customers. It depends on the market because we deal with a lot of FMCG repeat sale stuff. So you tend to see 60-70% of people buying products, and then your new to brand's about sort of 40%. But you want to see an uplift. I'd be happy with a third or 40% uplift in new to brand customers coming in off the back of it, really. So you want to see, because as soon as you can lock those people in with retargeting, and something we do a lot with food and health and beauty, is retargeting those people and pushing them on to subscribe and save. So it's like getting new consumers in and then locking them into the brand and looking at those metrics. So looking at, take it from the top, video completion, well, number of consumers that you're hitting, video completion rate, detailed page views, how they've gone up, new to brand customers, look at the branded search, which Amazon's got a beta, as they call it, in about seeing the uplift versus the video, which I think that'll be a really key metric, because you can link that to your Amazon advertising AMS. You can look at your branded campaigns and what's the uplift on that, and then build it in from there, really.
So I think one of the takeaways, and you said is, and what's probably they're not doing very well in Europe yet, is looking at it with the full picture and having the full funnel in view, and have your strategy looking at was over the top advertising, retargeting, then sponsored brands and sponsored product, and all targeted in the same way, was probably coupons and everything. So it's a full environment as usual with Amazon, and with the SEO, and making sure that all you're doing on the advertising side will push the organic side also, that you get your bestseller ranking also improving. And that's the recipe for success, which is not always very easy. Now, let's say the final topic, which we touched about when we talked yesterday, is, I think, really interesting, is Alexa voice advertising.
Yeah.
So I think that's really exciting.
DJing, that's good. That's fine.
Well.
Alexa. I'm far happier to talk about Alexa.
So Alexa voice. Can you tell me, or what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, but it's something that we saw an AMP takes part in AdCon. So Amazon does an advertising conference every year recently, and they were talking about DSP and the capability of targeting consumers with voice adverts. And it's something that I spoke to the guys in the UK and said, "Oh, this sounds really interesting," because we developed some Alexa skills as well in Alexa. So we just down the road, and because we're based in Cambridge, you see, so that's where the R&D headquarters are. So I was like, oh, I said, well, look, I spoke to one of the key developers of Alexa, and I said to guys, you're giving these things away for free because Amazon is going to put advertising on these things. They're like, oh no, we're not going to do that. It's going to get away the consumer experience, and it'll never happen. I'm like, yeah. I said, I bet you, Jeff's got an idea for them. So yeah, basically, on your Amazon Music, you have a free version on Alexa. Then adverts are starting to pop up there. So voice adverts for brands. So another over-the-top piece of advertising.
And that will come with over-the-top, you believe. And so you'll have to record voice advertising, so that will become something.
Yeah, so an MPV jingle piece of advertising, voiceover from you could do voiceover for ads, couldn't you?
Well, good idea. Yeah, if I have, good idea. and that means and on the Alex side, you can't. There's no way of stopping it. It's like if you have your music and
Yeah,
you have to go through the advertising,
yeah,
or hearing the whole of it. The only thing is probably you don't know who's inside the household. Like if it's my Amazon account, Prime account, or even without Prime,
yeah.
and it's my daughter, one of my sons who's listening to it. It's like they don't know, so they would probably target me, and it's someone else listening to it. So they probably have to refine.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely have to refine it. But then, if you have a Alexa, or you have a Ring doorbell, or your app on your phone, then Amazon probably know that you're next to that device anyway. So there's lots of data points, but I'm just surmising about how they would do it. But
Yeah, a lot of people will start to be, but it's like we were we were talking with a colleague the other day, and he mentioned the brand Birkenstock,
yeah,
and he said as soon as he said it, he started to view like on his browser like advertising for Birkenstock,
yeah,
and he said oh, it's crazy because he just mentioned it, and then so things are listening for sure, and they're not only sending advertising, they're also listening, and probably the future will be that they when they listen they will send an ad which is linked to what we just said. It's like the Hoover
yeah.
is broken, and then oh okay, you've got a new appliance, a new promotion. So
Yes.
I don't know. How do you feel about the things listening to us in a way of tailoring the experience to give us like the advertising which makes sense?
I think there's a big issue with. Look, I have Alexa and I have Ring products in the house, and because I like gadgets and what have you, but um, I'm relatively relaxed about it. I do think there's an issue, you know, with Facebook and Instagram, for example, on the app. There's lots of theories about how that Facebook listens to you via your phone to serve up ads. Um, Amazon's doing it. I think there's two sides of the argument. I'm happy to give away my data to a certain extent if it's secure and it's not shared with anyone else. If it means I have a better experience on Amazon or whatever, if it serves me relevant ads, then that's fine. I think. But
But
when it
it
starts
sounds a bit far
getting,
west like today. It's like what happened with Cambridge Analytics and the Brexit and the fact that they were using all the stories with Donald Trump and saying, okay, I'm not saying it's true and I'm not giving any political comment, but it's like they were saying, okay, data were reused in a way which was to or give a message or give an influence on like political stakes. It gives an idea of like things are a bit on the or let's say on the negative side is like wow, things are not controlled. On the positive or let's more constructive ways, like the power of those tools once they will be under control will be quite impressive, probably in terms of
yeah,
advertising experience.
definitely, definitely. I think but we think about all the data points that Amazon has with Prime, Fire. People have Kindles. You have the Amazon app on your phone. You have Alexa in your house. IMDTV, Twitch. There's billions of data points that Amazon have for consumers. That I think, from going back to the marketeer's point of view, is that if you want to accurately target people, I think Amazon's certainly getting an advantage on the likes of Facebook that hasn't really. I mean, I know they've got their own voice product, but who's got one? I don't know. But so there's areas that it has a lot more touch points to the consumer than other brands. I mean, other outlets. I mean, probably only Google has got more, I'd say.
Yeah, but they're missing the last part we were saying, and that will be probably the parting thought of today's like Amazon is got loads of details, but specifically they've got what you're buying, which makes a big
Yeah.
difference compared to Google, because Google shopping is not really working and they've stopped it. So like in that point, that's why Amazon is becoming so important. And the trend is like video is becoming very big, and we talked about on the AMS or search advertising part, but also on the over the top. And then voice is coming very soon, so we'll have to have probably videos, which could be video plus the voice part, which could be reused on Alexa. I think that that was an awesome session, lots of learnings and discussions about KPIs and a bit peek into the future. Thank you very much, Matt. Have a
Okay.
great evening, and we'll be talking soon together, I hope.
Yes.
Hopefully face to face one day soon.
Hope to see you soon. Okay, a bientôt.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Bye bye.